Welcome, everybody. Buckeye Friday. Finally Friday. Dan, what's up, man? How are you? What are we doing? I don't know.
I'm
Having a
stoked,
podcast.
man.
Yeah.
Week 0. We have legitimate college football tomorrow.
Yes. We're going to get into that because I have Florida State getting upset tomorrow. But
Ooh, Chris Drew's your friend.
yeah, well, me and Chris, we're in the same canoe, I guess. But that's a way to start a show with a bold P right there. But hey,
Chris
guys,
he's a huge Tech fan, Georgia Tech fan.
We are at 391 subscribers. Our views average over 1,000 or more. So if you haven't yet subscribed, we're doing our Blitz to 500. If we get there before next Saturday, I get to go to an extra football game. You guys get entered for an extra $50 gift card for Buckeye gear from Buckeye Corner, and we feel really good about that. You guys like us. So if you could, please do hit the subscribe button. If nothing else, if you're already a subscriber, drop comments. Next Tuesday, we're going to do a show for you guys. We're going to answer your questions. If you have any bold predictions for the year, we'll shout you out. Do it on our Twitter timeline. Do it on our Facebook. If you follow us on Facebook or Instagram, anywhere there is, we'll find them, we'll answer them, and we'll put them out there for you too. So just hit that subscribe button, 1.7 seconds, and it makes us feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, hit it now, and then drop your bold predictions or your questions for next week's show in the comments, or we'll post on Twitter this week asking for feedback, and we'll give you a shout out as we talk about it.
Yep.
And I heard some bold predictions this morning.
There's a lot. This is like, I feel like everybody's just so anxious for actual football that we're all just like on this super like duper high right now because there's actual football tomorrow. And so everybody's so amped up and their juices are flowing that we're just making these crazy statements, just to see what sticks.
Yeah.
Speaking of sticking, Dan, starting next Saturday, the Best Damn Recap, stick it in your calendar right after the Akron game. Dan and I'll be live, give you some of our takes from the game. You drop your questions in the chat and we'll get to them. We'll probably only go 10, 15, 20 minutes. It won't be a long show, guys, but don't forget to earmark it. I'll start putting them out as well. So Friday I'll drop the, it's close to time as I can, 3:45 or whatever. And then if the game goes long, I guess it's a 3:30 game, so it'll be in the evening. If the game goes long, then we'll go live right after it. The countdown will be on. So, But Best Damn Recap right after the football games this year. Buckeye games. I should preface that. Buckeye games, not all the games. We'd be really tired, Dan.
No, but that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be something fun to do. It would be a national show.
Yeah.
All right. So, Dan.
Yes, sir.
I got to ask you about this. Jakeem Stewart drops this little tidbit for us in the recruiting world that he will be at the Ohio State-Michigan game in Columbus on November 30th to watch us win 60-3. And what do you think? That's a good thing, right? Like, that's a big game. Maybe LeBron will be there again.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's I think he announced a game for each one of his final four, or top four rather. It'll be interesting to see if that gets turned into an OV. I know the coaches aren't. It's a balancing act, right? They busted their butt to get all their OVs in during the summer because it's just a different experience on a game weekend, and it takes away from the one-on-one time. But I have a feeling they'll do whatever they need to do for this kid. But I like it. I mean, all signs point to him reclassifying. He's put in all the paperwork to do it. He's done all the coursework to do it.
Yep.
I mean, if he didn't reclassify at this point, it's like, is there anything for him to do next year in high school? If he's going to have all the classes out of the way. So, it's just a matter of him formally reclassifying. It does impact the OV thing, for him, because I know he didn't take any this summer. So he's going to have to get in his OVs during the season or during, off weeks. So that'll be interesting to see how that happens. Man, it's going to be really hard to get him away from LSU, but I do think if anyone can, it will be us. I mean, he's very, very fond of Larry Johnson and Leon Clark.
Yep.
I mean, him and Coach Clark are from the same town, I guess.
Yeah, so you kind of beat me to the punch. If he doesn't commit to LSU, he will commit to Ohio State. It's really that simple. Like it's either he stays home or he's coming here. Like there's no in between. I'll be interested to see what he does because we get his last visit technically, and then early signing day is, like 12 days after that or something. It's quick, so he can. Is he going to have a commitment date, or is it going to be like a old school fax surprise? We get the fax machine fired up and dust it off, and he sends it to whoever he's committing to. I'm sure there'll be a commitment ceremony. I'll just say it like that. But
I would imagine, on signing day, I'm sure he'll do something. I'm not as definitive as you are anymore in the recruiting world. If it's not LSU, I think his other schools are USC and Oregon. So you don't know.
Has he even been out to Oregon? That's the thing. Like I don't recall ever reading him going. I think
I don't know if he has, but I'm sure he will. Okay. They're dropping a lot of money for people to visit, just to come and visit.
Yeah.
It's pretty silly.
Yeah, I know. The number I saw
some
was
of these
20.
I've been told $50,000.
Okay,
for
I
an
haven't
OV.
seen anything that high. I saw 20
for an OV.
Yeah.
So, it's happening out there.
It is. Oh, it absolutely is. So keeping with that, Aiden Harris, one of the top defensive ends as well, says OSU is at the top of his list. And then we also got a crystal ball for the edge out of North Carolina that we fumbled his name last time, but it's Xavier Griffin Haynes. So Larry Johnson doing work again for somebody that was supposed to retire.
Yeah, right. I mean, that was my biggest takeaway from Larry's, interview session the other night with the Beat. Is, man, every time I hear the guy talk or I see him coach, I just can't believe he's 73 years old.
Man, he looks trimmed down too. Did you notice in the interview, like he looks like he doesn't have the grandpa belly right now?
Yeah, I think he might be on the Ryan Day. People, it's funny. Whenever people lose weight these days, everybody just assumes it's Ozempic. But yeah, he's leaned down a little bit. Regarding the two kids out of North Carolina, a little tidbit: Aiden Harris has a twin brother by the name of Drew Harris. Aiden is ranked the number 2 edge in the country, and Drew is ranked the 34th edge in the country. And I saw something this morning that said they're going to be coming and visiting together.
Oh, that would be cool. I'd love that. It'd be like Devontae and Deontay Armstrong, man.
Yeah.
On the defensive side of the football.
Yeah.
Bring them both. Give them to me both. I want it all. I'll be greedy. I don't care.
Isn't there a song that goes, "I want it all"?
Yeah.
I should never sing on
TV
again.
I gotta edit that, man. All right. So speaking of Larry Johnson, we had an interview from him. You brought it up, Dan and the Woody. He said the very first thing that I jotted down from his interview said 5 ends that are coming back that are really solid. So that's, in my mind, I'm thinking he's speaking of JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, Mitch Melton, Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson.
He actually named them, and those were the 5. I was a little surprised that he didn't throw in an Edric Houston there because all indications are that he flat.
Yeah.
What's that?
He said these are the guys that came back.
Oh, I thought he said that these are the guys that, I'm comfortable going 5 deep at this point. He just named those 5. I didn't realize there was a caveat to that, but I was a little surprised he didn't throw Edric in there.
Me too.
But I do think he'll get on the field. I think we're going to see a lot of these guys early on and, in these first few games and see what they can do. And then determine, do they get redshirted or not? Yeah.
So he mentioned 6 guys in the middle. He feels like they have 5 ready to go. He did say Jason Moore has gotten stronger. He's smart, played more football, had over 300 reps, this point, which was a big deal. Mentioned Josh Mickens put on about 30 pounds and could be that sixth guy at the edge position he's looking for. But looking into the middle, Dan, so I guess we're, I know we have Tyleek and Ty Hamilton. We have Hero Canoe. He did talk about Taiwan Malone a little bit in his interview as well. It was hard to hear some of the questions because they didn't have a mic with the guys that were asking questions. But sounds like he's feeling pretty good about the guys in the middle. Obviously we have Cade McDonald, who I've beat into the ground now about how much I like him. So I don't know about you, but I'm feeling much better about the defensive tackle depth now than I did in January.
Oh, tons better. Absolutely. I have zero concerns along the line at this point. I think our depth is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm really not even worried about our depth at linebacker anymore. But sticking with the Larry theme, we got to see it, man. We got to see the rotation. We got to see the reps. They've got to get these young guys in there, and it's twofold, right?
Yeah.
There's multiple issues at hand here. Number one, you're going to get negatively recruited against if you don't use a rotation.
Yeah, get those guys in,
Okay. Number two, and probably most importantly, well, I think it's 1A and 1B when it comes to importance. What I was not going to say, but I'll start with is that, if somebody goes down, we need somebody that's got some reps in there and that can step right in.
Yep.
But the other issue at hand here is, and nobody really wants to think ahead, but, next year we're losing our starting four on the defensive line.
Mm-hmm. And
and your mic, and we need these guys to have game experience. Love them or hate them, and we all hate them. But that team up north, man, that's one thing they've done over these last few years is they played their depth.
Well, that's because they had everybody else's plays though, so they knew what to tell them was coming.
Yeah. But they still played their depth. they still played their depth.
Yeah.
And we haven't. Okay. It still baffles me. Just inexplainable.
Yeah.
That Jack and JT never came off the field against Notre Dame last year. Not for a single rep. I've never heard of that.
No, it was wild. So the other thing, you and I have talked about every year it seems like the Mitch Melton hype train picks up in spring and then he gets hurt. So Larry was asked about Mitch Melton, and he's up to 262 now. Can play. He feels like he can finally play all three downs and not just third down as a rushman. Talked about how he had a great camp, but then very suddenly switched to Caden Curry and said that Caden needs to be ready to play at least 25 snaps and if something would happen, he would have to play 60. And in the past, he was only really prepped to do 10 snaps. So that I brought that up because you talked about having to play, needing to play youth. And so part of that, like, they just have to have those guys ready to do it. It just, to me, if you said JT and Jack don't come off the field, were these guys not ready? Like, I don't know. Like that just seemed like a really odd statement. It was like, it just caught me weird. I thought it was.
It's not even youth at this point, Chad. Everybody we just named are second, third. Is Milton a fourth year guy or a third year guy? Mm-hmm. We're talking about third year guys at this point and getting them reps.
Yeah.
And it's not, I'm convinced it's not because they're not good enough.
No.
There's just been a philosophy with the rotation. I don't know. It's got to change.
It has to. Absolutely. So then one of the other things that I picked up and I wanted to get your take on, Dan, was I don't agree with this statement about Ty Hamilton, but Larry said Ty and Tyleek last year managed the middle, but they are working on becoming better pass rushers. I will say Tyleek managed the middle. I do not feel like Ty Hamilton did. I know that he came back. I know he's a fifth-year senior, but he rotated. So
he rotated, but he was pretty solid when he was in there. He just wasn't in there very often.
He wasn't a disruptor though. That's
right.
but maybe everybody has different roles. He did talk about how Ty does a good job of matching hands, so like getting his hands up for the football when the quarterback. So he did talk about that. He did give him some flowers. I just thought there was two things that I didn't like. That one, and he said that they're not chasing sacks. Well, what the hell are you chasing?
Larry's big catchphrase. Excuse me. Hold on.
You're good. This is not I hate Larry Johnson thing either. It's just,
no, this isn't. But Larry's catchphrase is disrupt the quarterback, and that's not. Holy cow! These and that doesn't necessarily mean sacks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but man, it sure would be nice.
I know, right? Well, he talked about like playing within the game. Affect the quarterback, knock balls down, never be satisfied. That like the coach speak. And I was just like, you know what, man? We saw Jack Sawyer last year, and bless you. And when you turned him loose, he was getting sacks. And so let's turn him loose, man. Like I'm all fine for playing. Like, look, if you need to play within the defense, and like if you're on the edge and you have to set the edge and whatever, and however you're supposed to feel, great. Like do your role, but like let these guys, go pound the quarterback a little bit. I don't know.
Well, I saw something on Instagram. Somebody was showing our defensive line, and I was actually shocked. I knew it was low. I didn't realize it was this low, but JT's got like 9 sacks in 3 seasons. And Jack has got like 13 and a half, maybe 12 and a half. I mean, the guys up north, they had I want to say a freshman last year that had 12 and a half sacks.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. Something needs to change there. I do think that we're seeing a lot of really quick pass game stuff.
Yes.
Because if you watch our guys get there.
Yeah.
It's just the ball's out.
Yeah. 3 steps and out, 3 steps and gone.
So,
yeah. I mean, the days of the 7-step drop are well behind us, so they are trying to get the ball out quicker. Players are quicker. And then they know the talent on the defensive line too. You hold the ball, you are going to, you will lose yards, you will get a sack. So,
yeah.
But no, I didn't want that to be like I'm really frustrated with Larry Johnson segment. It just, some of the things I'm just like, come on, man. Like, I mean, I'm in my 40s and I'm set in my ways, but anyways,
I don't know. I have no idea.
We're going to get some
hate
mail on this segment. I can already feel it. So
I have no idea what it means to be stubborn.
Yeah, me either. So I wanted to address something. It kind of popped up. So if you missed it, Dan and I had the really great opportunity to join Ron and Q on the Buckeye Roast Wednesday morning. If you're not watching them, you should. They do a great job. They had Chris Drew on yesterday, and Chris is such a like cool dude. Like I feel like when you look up cool in the dictionary, it should be a picture of Chris. So, but we talked about the offensive line, and we kind of like, I guess, pounded on Justin Fry a little bit more just to see if we could get a little more glue out of the horse. But I keep hearing people saying, well, are they going to circle back on some people? Who's left? The name Nolan Davenport keeps getting thrown around from Massillon. Guys, I personally do not see Ohio State reaching for somebody. But with the scholarship limit going up, I do think that gives them an opportunity to take a couple truly developmental pieces. But I have something, Dan. I have a very fun graphic for us.
Oh, wow.
Is
this Excel?
No, it's not Excel.
Ugh.
But just...
I love me some good Excel porn. I'll be honest with you, man. I can get lost in an Excel spreadsheet.
The Urban Meyer era. Okay. FB1. So these are the commits out of Ohio every year. And so do you remember I kind of pinpointed the impact of COVID And look how down
Yep.
these numbers were. And they're starting to creep back up. And then 2025 is not over yet, obviously, but you can see that. And then when we talk about the offensive line recruiting and what we're looking at, it's disproportionate because that has impacted the kids. It did. Like it. There's no way to say it any differently. And whatever you think about it, I'm not politically. I don't care. But the fact that they couldn't get in the weight room and couldn't train it the way that we are again now impacted them. So there has been some issues with that. So I wanted to re-emphasize that. But now with the scholarships expanding, Dan, do you think? I mean, I kind of think it would be okay to take an extra 2 offensive linemen that are maybe 3-star on the cusp of 4-star that are Ohio kids that want to be Buckeyes, and just see if you can't turn them into starting caliber players. Or where are you at with this?
I don't know, man. I go in and out between being frustrated beyond belief and just kind of, taking a wait and see approach. Yesterday's press conference with Justin was very interesting. Number one, props to the guys that are in there for asking about recruiting. I honestly didn't think that I thought maybe one person would have the balls to ask a recruiting question to Justin.
Okay.
But it turned into half his session was talking about recruiting. I got to be honest with you, man. I'm in sales, right?
Yep.
So I've learned over the years to listen to what people don't say or dive into what they said and what they really meant about it. And there was one phrase that he used that tells me it's not going to change. And he said, I am going to continue to use an evaluation-based approach.
Mm.
And all that tells me is that he was basically, I think that was a very soft way of telling everybody that was asking him questions to kiss his butt. He's the pro. They don't know anything about offensive play and what it means to play offensive line at Ohio State. And he's going to do what he needs to do. And he's going to continue to evaluate this kid. He basically, to me, that was an excuse for the low numbers.
Mm.
That seems to be a hot topic right now. But here's the problem, Chad, is that you mentioned take a flyer on a couple guys.
Sure.
We're missing guys that aren't flyers. We're missing guys that want to play here and have offers from all the big boys, early offers, and they're simply telling us that they're not hearing from Justin Fry.
That's true.
Champ Smith is one of them in Florida. He's told people, he's like, man, I don't hear from him. We've heard about it with Will Conroy. The love's not
the
there.
Conroy thing I didn't even want to bring it up because it makes me so mad.
Yeah, but Adam Guthrie still doesn't have an offer. Here we are. It's a strategy, it's an approach, it's a philosophy that he obviously holds near and dear to his heart. I don't get it. I don't understand it. He called his shot. He said, all indications are is that we're going to get McFadden this Saturday. He referenced Saturday.
Yep.
He referenced that December's a long way away. Stay tuned. I mean, he was basically calling a shot that, it's going to change, by the time the dust settles. But
yeah,
it's the high quality players with obvious intangibles and measurables that are genuinely interested in us that aren't hearing from him.
Yeah.
That concerns me the most.
I have this on our screen. I agree with you, Dan. It concerns me a lot. So I'm going to give credit to Tony Gerdeman. So I'm a big fan of aggregation. So if I'm using something of somebody else's, I will certainly shout them out. So Tony, this is Tony's stats. This is his tweet. He's a member of Buckeye Huddle, so credit there. But these are the commitments, offensive line commitments every year since Urban Meyer have arrived, the totals. So you can see with the outlier of COVID, the year 2020, like the average is 3. So like if I add all those numbers up, it's roughly an average of 3 per year. So now what this doesn't tell you is if it was tackles, center, guard,
Chad, something's off in these numbers, bro. We had 4 guys last year, and it says 3 for 2024. Something. Yeah. Oh, these are decommitments.
Yeah.
These are decommitments.
No, it says there may be a random decommitment mixed in, but here are the number of O-line commitments the Buckeyes have had every year at this time since Urban Meyer.
Oh, at this time.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I should have clarified. Yeah.
Context matters. So this is the number of O-line commitments we've had at this point in the recruiting cycle.
Yeah. I shouldn't have said like by signing day. This is just like where we typically are in August.
Yeah. Okay. So 1 week out from the first game of the year, this is typically where we are.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we land McFadden on Saturday, then we'll be right where we were last year.
Yeah.
So I'm just
again, it's.
I understand. We're all frustrated by the recruiting.
Yeah,
we are. I get it. I was just trying to go ahead.
And a year ago, man, I probably wouldn't have. I probably would have looked at it the exact same way that he just did.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing that there's players out there that want to commit to us, that are highly rated players, and they're just not hearing from him, is concerning.
It is. It's concerning. Yeah. So let me ask you this. If Ohio State is a finely tuned machine, I'm just being careful with my wording here, headed towards a natty, maybe even working towards a Joe Moore Award, do you think that has any impact on some of the O-line guys that maybe committed elsewhere? Let's use Fanuku, DeBose. There's football to be played. So do you? I know that all indications are they haven't stopped recruiting Micah DeBose. They haven't stopped reaching out to Henry Fanuku. Do you think is there any light at the end of the tunnel, or is this, or is he or are we moving on?
I think what you're getting at is if there's an obvious track record of development, will players just come to us?
Yes. You picked up on it.
I don't listen. Logic tells you that should help,
mm-hmm.
But look at the team up north, man. 2 years running, they've won the Joe Moore Award.
Yeah.
They've got 2 guys right now, too. Now, granted, some people would argue that, players know things are coming.
Well, yeah, they just lost another commitment to Auburn, so.
That was a defensive lineman.
Yeah.
But, but they've had to go into, they've gone into the portal heavy the last few years during this 3-year cheating run that they were on. So I don't know. I mean, logic would tell you, and I would argue that the development track record is already there at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, people are probably saying, well, that was the previous guys, and look at what Justin Fry did earlier in his career. He doesn't develop guys. I think that's all BS. At the end of the day, it still comes down to relationships, and people are going to do business with people that they like and trust.
Right.
And I say do business because that's what this is now. And I just think there's a disconnect there with his effort on a wide scale.
Okay.
And I just don't know how exciting he is when he's talking to people. Like how does he get these guys excited?
Right. Okay. Well,
I mean, I feel like there's certain people out there that are probably going to, crucify us for staying on this. But the more that interview did nothing to help me last night feel good about it at all.
All right. Well, I want to stay on the offensive line. So, because I have a little snippet I want to share of Ty Hamilton sharing some thoughts about the offensive line.
Yeah, I think it definitely comes with a lot of experience. I mean, these guys coming back after playing a full season. I mean, they learned a lot of things. So coming back this year, I mean, they have a more complete group together. They played with each other last year, so they're more glued together. So I mean, it's going to be harder to go against these guys when they're going against each other when they have their experience. They play for each other, and so it's harder to go against them.
Is there any simple question?
I mean, Seth's very a technical guy. You know, he's very smart. So when he's out there on the field, he's looking to get any advantage over any of the D linemen that he can, and that's what makes him a good player. Like when he's out there, he's trying to find your weakness, and when he gets that weakness, that's when you take advantage of it.
Is there any one of those offensive linemen who's been tougher to go around this year, a lot more than last year?
You know, I think all the offensive linemen has been pretty hard to go against. I mean, it hasn't been a certain person to stand out. I mean, they're all growing each and every day. So I mean, it's good to see going out there going against good on good. It's good to see.
All right, Ty. Thank you.
Going against good on good. And then Seth, of course, being a technician. And anything you hear about Seth is that he is constantly studying, always looking for an advantage, and just kind of an old school, grinded out football player on the offensive line. So are you buying it that it's harder to go against them this year?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we've already talked about the transformation that Josh Simmons has had physically.
Yep.
You know, Donovan's in his fourth year, you know, or his fifth year here, you know, on the team, and he's going into his third year of starting. Yes, experience matters, and you expect improvement year over year. You bring in somebody like a Seth that's got close to 30 starts at a place like Alabama. And then obviously, you know, the King Prize, the grand prize was, you know, Chip coming in is going to help it as well. You know, there's one thing that's interesting. You know, people wonder if they hear if they hear the noise in the Woody.
Mm-hmm. I have the Josh Myers video.
Yeah, I mean,
do you want it?
It's great. Yeah, it's great lead-in.
All right. Go ahead, talk about it. I'll bring it up.
Well, I mean, you know, we're about to hear from Josh Fryer. I mean, he makes it very clear that they hear the noise.
Yeah.
They hear it. Justin hears it. The linemen hear it. Ryan hears it. Chip probably blocks it out. But they hear it. And,
absolutely do.
You know, as you're loading that, I will say one thing. Man, some of our fans need to get a life. I mean, some of the stuff that Josh Fryer said that he and his girlfriend received from people is just atrocious and disgusting.
Folks, girlfriend.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with what Josh is doing on the field.
Yeah. It's atrocious. It's disgusting. You need to grow up. You need to get a life.
Yeah. So here it is.
I guess, how would you characterize the experience of being an Ohio State football player? Obviously, this fan base is rabid. It's huge. They're loud and vocal. But there's a good and a bad side of this, an ugly side of it that you've seen. So how would you characterize being a Buckeye and just experiencing that?
When it's good, it's really good. When it's bad, it's bad. But at the same time, it's fun. I didn't expect this as a college football player, but at the same time, now I understand what it's about, and it's different. It's completely different from high school. So
yeah.
Josh looks good, man. He looks lean.
Down.
You know,
broad shoulders. Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's actually put weight on, but he looks a lot
not
leaner.
Dirty weight.
No.
So,
yeah, man, it's an interesting world we live in with social media.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, keyboard.
Hell, we catch it. We catch it in our comments and our DMs sometimes, and we're like just two nobodies.
Yeah, we're that's yeah, you know, it is. So I wanted to before we switch into the defense and talk a little bit about Matt Guerrieri's interview, which he was really captivating. Like, I didn't realize he was so interesting to listen to. But Nick McCarty, so congratulations to Nick. Going to be the starting punter, the kid that can punt the ball 195 yards or something. True freshman out of Australia, so the Australia connection is strong. I would have absolutely positively lost my bet because all my money was on the kid that they brought in from Buffalo. I thought, you know, he had experience. They brought him in for a reason. So it does just say for the Akron game, but congratulations to Nick McCarty I'm excited to see. Hopefully, we don't have too many punts against Akron, but I guess if there is one, maybe he can boot it into the stands.
Yeah, I'm really surprised by that, man, because I went to those first 4 practices and he was wildly inconsistent. And the reports, quite honestly, as of maybe 7 to 10 days ago, indicated that it was the same. Yeah. But credit to whoever's working with him. He seems to have gotten it right. And we know Ryan's not going to put somebody out there he doesn't trust.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun to see. I think he'd probably be, one of the least used punters in the country this year.
I agree with you.
I mean, we all know 6'7", 255 built. I have no idea what his running capability is like. If he's got any sort of athleticism whatsoever, he could be a weapon for us in some, a few key moments this year.
Yeah. So Dan, let me give you an opportunity here. What did you make of Matt Guerrieri then? I don't know that I've ever really listened to Guerrieri talk. I think I listened to one little 5-minute video of him in the spring. They didn't give him, a ton of time. What did you walk away thinking? Because you and I have kind of postulated that Perry got a raw deal. Knowles wanted his guy. Guerrieri's kind of behind the scenes. You hear about him recruiting a little bit. Thoughts? Everything.
Yeah,
all the credit goes to Tim Walton when there's a big.
It's weird. I think it's a little bit of everything there. I was in the Buckeye Huddle chat yesterday when they were doing the live interviews with Justin and some of the. I think the first lineman that they did was somebody kind of random. But anyways, Kevin mentioned that, he knows for a fact that Perry was not a good fit with the staff, which was the first time I heard that.
I've never heard that. You heard something I haven't heard.
I mean, he was adamant about it. Because I was in there chatting with some folks, and I'm just like, Perry didn't get fired because of his recruiting chops. He got fired because Jim Knowles wanted his guy in there, and at that point, he had earned that right. I think Ryan handled it horribly. But maybe there was something, he put it all on recruiting, and maybe that's what Kevin meant by, he wasn't a good fit with the staff, is that he wasn't willing to grind. But I'll tell you what, man, the guys he brought in are performing.
Yep.
Hartford, McLean, Bonzu, they're all showing really. Roker.
Mm-hmm.
I think Roker was a Perry guy, or was that a Guerrieri guy?
No, that was a Perry guy.
Yeah. So, but talking about Guerrieri, I've always liked him, man. The first time I heard him talk, I was, captivated.
Yeah. I also, sorry, Dan, I didn't mean to cut you off.
He's the opposite of Justin Fry in my mind when it comes to talking to a kid.
Okay. I wanted to, before we get too far into that, the interview with Josh Myers is from Dylan Davis on Twitter. So I want to give credit.
Josh Fryer.
Yeah, Josh Fryer. What did I say? Josh Myers? Gosh, man.
Mm-hmm.
Tired. You can tell I'm coaching football at night, man. I'm so tired these days. But Josh Myers, Josh Fryer. Gosh, man, I'm gonna have to edit this. But
no, don't.
It came from Dylan Davis.
We're human.
So give Dylan Davis a follow on Twitter. I found him via Juck. So, but yeah, if you're not following him, he's kind of new to the group, but he does a really good job, guys.
He works for the Delaware Gazette, is it?
Yeah.
Is it the Gazette? He works for them, and he covers OSU football for them.
Yeah. So he's not part of the beat, but he just does a really good job. For a young guy, I feel like he's doing a great job. So Dylan, you'll never watch this, but I want to give you credit.
Why is that? I mean, I've always thought the beat means a credentialed member of the media.
I guess I'll tell you about it offline.
You think of it as the guys that have podcasts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Okay.
Certain ones, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. I'm not going down that rabbit hole with you, Dan. But so Guerrieri, I jotted a few things down. So Caleb Downs, he talked about Caleb Downs like melting into the Buckeye way. having him in the spring and summer in the system. He obviously, we already knew this, but physically he can play deep, he can play man, he can play zone, he can blitz. But he mentioned that his preparation level, and you and I have talked about this, is unmatched. Like he sees things through a coaching lens. And you and I talked about comps and different things, and I kept saying he just reminds me of Ed Reed, and that's why. I think that's what it is. But Gray said that they watched every single snap that Downs took at Bama. Did you catch this?
Mm-hmm. I did.
Caleb told Matt every single call and what went right or wrong before the play even went. Like he had complete recall of what happened in the game and that on that play. And wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, that's the difference, right? That's what an elite athlete is. You hear the stories about guys like Sean McVay being able to do stuff like that, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. It's an eliteness that doesn't exist for but a fraction of the population.
Yeah, I mean, it's unreal to have that kind of athletic ability, just natural God-given athletic ability, and then to be able to like have those mental reps. I mean, what a combination! Like, what a player! I'm excited. I cannot wait to watch him. I may have to change my vote because my original vote was I couldn't wait to watch Quinshon Judkins. I may have to change my vote to Caleb Downs, but so very interestingly then Matt went on to say, like, after the top two in his mind, and I like this strategy, but so the top two being Lathan and Caleb, you cannot have any drop off out of that position. Like, so if Lathan comes off the field, Matt Gray said the next guy has to be able to play at the same level as Lathan Ransom. It's asking a lot of the same guy, somebody to play at the same level as Caleb Downs, but that's the expectation. And I liked that he set that expectation. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the definition of depth, right? You can't have a drop off.
No.
Not at a place like Ohio State.
No. And then I wanted to ask you this, and I'm not prefacing this as good or bad. He mentioned that for the adjuster and the bandit, they're cross training everybody in that room for depth. A lot to remember in a Jim Knowles safety driven defense to cross train. And just so you guys know, bandit and adjuster literally just means left and right. So don't get confused about it.
Yeah, free and strong.
Yeah, free and strong, left and right, whatever. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's a great philosophy. It's a great approach, because you never know who. I mean, you can't.
Okay.
You need people that are able to cover both positions in a position room like that.
Well, I was just thinking about the youth in that room. So you're coming in, you're adjusting to playing college football, you're adjusting to a safety-driven defense, you're trying to learn a specific position or skill set. I mean, if you plucked me out of my job and said, "Hey, I need you to go be a, I don't know, installer today," I would be like, "What?" So I guess that I was coming at it from that lens of like, that's not really what I do anymore. I have done it. I could probably remember a little bit about how to do it, but I'm not going to remember it all.
Yeah. I mean, these guys are living and sleeping and breathing and eating this, on a daily basis. So,
all right.
At the end of the day, it's not rocket science.
See ball, get ball.
See ball, get ball. But, Knowles has he's got a reputation for having a very, very unique way of teaching this stuff.
Yep.
Almost kind of like a hooked on phonics kind of way.
Sure.
Which, today's generation they're visual learners because of social media, if nothing else.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you this one then. I'll put you on the spot. Is the fact that Jim Knowles is not coaching a position a good thing or bad thing for the position coaches?
Oh, I think if you got them in a room alone after a few drinks, they'd probably tell you there's pros and cons to it. Okay. They're probably each getting a little bit more of Jim than they did before, and with that comes pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
He gives me the impression that he has very, very high expectations, but he also lets these guys do their job.
Mm-hmm.
Is the impression I got. I can't see him micromanaging somebody like a James Laurinaitis.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, where I was going with this, I was teeing this up. So we talk about Ryan Day being CEO of the football team, or mostly probably the offense. He calls Jim Knowles the head coach of the defense. Mm-hmm. So is Jim Knowles now CEO of the defense? Do you think he's approaching it that way? I'm just curious. I'm getting your take from being at practice and stuff.
I mean, he's a hands-on CEO.
Okay.
If that's what you're getting at. He's not a hands-off guy. I mean, he can't be. He's very, very hands-on.
Yeah.
I was at those practices, and he's very involved.
Okay.
And guys like that,
yeah, he's old school.
Jim, there's nothing on Jim Knowles' list of responsibilities that requires him to give up play calling duty like it was with Ryan, right?
Sure. Oh, absolutely
so
absolutely
that he needs to be the hands-on. Yeah. I mean, he's the play caller for the defense. He's not handing that off. He's incredibly involved.
All right, cool. Well, I wanted to cover off some of the interviews, so now we can do a couple fun things, Dan, just for fun.
I thought the interviews were fun.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know, but I think that some of that can be a little bit like, because I can even tell the coaches when they're just done answering questions, they're like, just whatever. So week 0 is upon us. It's 24 hours away. Buckeyes don't play this weekend, but Dan, is there anybody on the Ohio State football team, given the amount of talent and the way that the ball is going to get spread around, that can make an actual run at the Heisman?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think there might be some runs at positional awards.
Okay.
I know they on the podcast daily this morning, one of their bold takes was that I think Berm said Will be in New York, and Ward took it a step further and said he's going to win it.
And
then the numbers,
Fields and Haskins didn't win it, and Haskins had 50 touchdowns.
But the numbers he gave doesn't tell me, like, he had him at 3,000 yards passing, 500 rushing, 30 touchdowns, 10 rushing touchdowns. I don't think those numbers are sexy enough for,
I mean, unless it's an odd year in college football, but you have Dylan Gabriel that came back and playing in a very prolific offense in a fancy uniform in Oregon. You have that kind of stuff going on. So I don't know. I have a hard time seeing that. But
what was JT Barrett's highest finish? 5th or 6th? He never got to New York, did he?
I don't believe he got to New York. Maybe as a freshman.
And I expect Will to have similar numbers to JT.
Yeah, same.
I
mean, for me, if Dwayne Haskins didn't win the Heisman, I don't think Will Howard's going to win the Heisman. But gosh, he threw for 50 touchdowns. I mean, good gravy, man. All right. So I agree with you. I don't think that. I think we have so much talent, and the ball is going to be spread around so much. An individual award like that would be a very tough accomplishment. And if it was somebody, it probably would be the quarterback. But
yeah, I just think that you're going to have, one of the other bold takes, I think it was Landis that said that Q was going to win the Doak Walker Award. And I don't, and his reasoning was he's going to get a lot of short yardage touchdowns, sort of like a Blake Corum. Had a lot of touchdowns because he had a lot of, 2-yard touchdown runs.
Yeah.
And that may very well be the case. I don't think he's going to have the yardage to get him up there because of the split with Trey. I just don't. I mean, going back to the quarterback thing, I mean, you got Dylan Gabriel's going to put up gaudy numbers because of the offensive system that they're in.
Correct.
And some people would say, well, what about the Ohio State offensive system? It's just different now with Chip. I think Jackson Dart's going to put up silly numbers, and then there's going to be 2 or 3 guys out there that put up silly numbers. Carson Beck, is probably going to put up over 4,000 yards and be quarterbacking a top 3-team.
Yeah, Travis Hunter.
So
I'm kind of watching from a distance just because he's going to play on both sides of the football, and
I mean, his name will be in there. He was a sexy pick at the beginning of last year, and then he got hurt.
Yeah.
I just don't see Colorado being good enough to justify.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
To overcome that.
You don't see too many players that play on both sides of football a lot of reps.
No.
So,
Can you argue that Travis Hunter is the best player in college football? Absolutely. But we all know now that the Heisman Trophy does not always go to the best player in football. If it did, it wouldn't be an almost exclusively offensive, skill position award.
Or a quarterback award.
I mean, Orlando Pace would have a Heisman on his fireplace mantle if it went to the best player.
So would Chase Young. So, all right, so let's play over-under for the folks at home, Dan.
All right.
James People, over-under 100 carries and 500 yards.
I'm going to go over on both those.
Okay. I agree with you. Yeah, I do. I think that looking back, I think that especially with the first 4 or 5 games, I don't think you're going to run Trey and Q into the ground. Peoples is technically really your number 2 back. I think he's going to get a lot of touches early. And I think some of the second halves of games are going to lean on him a little bit just, to run the clock. So I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to shoot my shot that Will Kazmarek is the starting tight end for Ohio State this year, tight end 1. So over under 20 catches and 300 yards.
How many did Cade have last year?
He had over 20 catches. I think he had almost 30.
I'm going to go under.
Okay.
I think there's going to be more of a rotation at that position. I don't think he's going to get 80% of the snaps and G's suddenly going to be on the bench. I'm still not convinced that G won't trot out there as the starter. Will does he does have a track record of throwing to the tight end, but, some people argue that that's all he really had to throw to the last couple of years at K-State.
Yeah.
I don't 100% buy that, but it certainly was a security blanket for him.
Okay.
I mean, he had a second-round tight end. Yeah, he had a second-round tight end on that roster. 20 seems light for a starting tight end, but because of the split reps, I'm gonna go under.
Cade had 41.
Okay.
So that would be half of what Cade had. All right. I'm gonna stick right at 20. So I think
you can't do that.
Okay.
You're gonna call push. You're gonna. So do you go to the roulette wheel and put your money on green?
No.
Okay, that's what you just did.
Red,
Give me one.
All right, I'll go under at 19. At 19. I do think he hits close to 300 yards. I think he has one big game that puts him towards that with like 6 catches for 80 yards or something. All right, Emeka Egbuka over under 1,000 yards. And I put that there to see if he would break the Ohio State record for receiving yards.
Yeah, he needs 1,042.
Yeah.
Yeah, over. I think they do what they have to get that for him.
I agree with you. Jack Sawyer over under 9 sacks.
I mean, based on his first 3 years here, you got to go under.
Yeah. But I'm taking the over. I'm pushing a risky bet in. I'm putting.
You think they're going to let these guys eat?
Yeah, I'm putting him at 11 sacks this year.
Interesting.
That's one less. So that's roughly 1 per game, a little less, 0.89 sack per game. So he could have a half a sack game in there.
Yeah.
All right. This is the one I've been waiting for all day to ask you, the entire day. Caleb Downs over under 5 interceptions. I've been waiting.
Oh, that's a good number.
It is. I know. That was my favorite one of all of them.
We haven't seen that in a while.
No.
I do think he's going to have a little bit more freedom back there. And his closing speed is unreal.
Elite. Yeah.
And his break on the ball is unreal. I've really contemplated this one. I'm going to go over.
Okay. Me too. I'm going over. I'm going to call it at 7.
But that's not without extreme hesitation, just based on history.
Yeah. Well, I'm going back to Malik Hooker. If they let him roam and play the way that Malik Hooker did, I think that number is achievable.
Yeah, I mean, different schemes.
Yeah.
But the one thing we haven't seen from Jim Knowles' defense that was a trademark of his in the past is turnovers. And I think in year 3, we start to see them.
Well, to be fair, like one year we were starting Tanner McAllister.
No.
I'm just saying.
I mean, Tanner McAllister was a starter for him at Oklahoma State on a defense that got a lot of turnovers.
Yep. All right.
That's why he came here and played, when he did.
Yep. All right. So I like that. I'm with you. I'm on the over. So week 0, Dan, I called it at the top. I think Georgia Tech upsets number 10 Florida State at noon Eastern on ESPN in Dublin. Who you got?
Why are they playing in Ohio?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh.
Dublin, Ohio.
I've heard the line. I don't really gamble anymore. I used to.
Yeah.
So I try not to look at the lines, just to resist temptation.
Mm-hmm.
But I've heard it's gone from like 13.5 down to 10.5. I think it's a sexy upset to start the year, kind of a pick.
I just don't like Florida State. So
yeah, I think they cover. I don't know if they win Georgia Tech.
Okay.
There's so many variables with this game. It's first game of the year. It's overseas. It's DJU starting for the first time.
Right.
Does it come out like gangbusters, or is it rusty and herky jerky at first? There's so many things going on there.
Well, he didn't play well at Clemson, and then he went to Oregon, or Oregon State, and he did okay, but that's Oregon State. No offense.
I mean, Clemson was an utter disaster. Like they didn't use. I don't know what was going on there.
Yeah. I mean, Corvallis is a tough place to play, especially at night. Like, I'm not going to take that away from them, but they're not competing for natties every year.
No. I mean, I think there's a lot of people jumping on the Georgia Tech train. I think a lot of it has to do with the sentiment carried over from last year. They just want to see Florida State lose because they complained so much.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably also a contingency out there that are rooting for Florida State because of the perceived snub. So,
yeah. Well, I'm still mad at Florida State for 97. So, because I feel like Ohio State could have beat them that year if they were given the opportunity and would have had a natty. So,
yep. But I think Florida State wins a close one.
Yeah. Montana State at New Mexico. I'm only interested in that one because I think I like Montana State because they're just a small school but there's not much intrigue there for me. But they're going to get housed by New Mexico. But
is Montana State the good one?
I don't know.
I'll take Montana State.
I think Montana's the Grizz, and Montana State. I feel like Montana State played in the playoffs last year. I feel like I watched them play in the playoffs.
I'll take Montana State.
Yeah, I think they lost. SMU at Nevada. So
SMU.
Yeah. The interesting thing though, man, it's above the Mason-Dixon. It's at night in Nevada. It's an 8 p.m. kickoff. I think I don't know.
SMU is one of my sleeper picks for this year.
Okay. I have Nevada covering, but we'll see.
Remember, SMU's in the ACC now.
Oh, that's true. Forgot about that.
I mean, it doesn't change, from one year to the next. But when I say they're a sleeper pick, I mean for the ACC.
Okay. And then Delaware State goes to Hawaii. If you're up at midnight and want to watch Hawaii football, I don't know there's that much intrigue on that, but hasn't really been since Timmy Chong was there. But it is what
Colt
it is.
Brennan, may his rest in peace.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you have it, guys. Our over/under picks, the week 0 picks, a bunch of information about the Buckeyes. Just a reminder, if you're still with us, subscribe, and then drop your comments, questions, anything else in the chat, especially if you want us to answer them on Tuesday for a question and answer Tuesday. So, Dan, any final words from you, man?
No, man, just one more week. One more week. I'm excited to get a little bit of football on the TV tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we are officially in game week as far as preparations go.
I
think there's a little bit of a game, like a game scenario, like a game walkthrough, a game run through tomorrow, in which they'll do a little bit of live scrimmaging, but for all intent and purposes, we are now in game prep week. The report that I got, we didn't touch on this, but Lincoln's running the scout team. Devin and Julian are splitting the number 2 reps, and Will's getting all the number 1s. Air is getting, outside of drills, he's not getting any reps at all.
Okay. I expect him to redshirt. So, yep. All right, guys. Well, we are somehow, some way, Dan, from January till now, we've managed to fill 8.5 months of content without really any football except for the spring game. So thanks for sticking with us. We're officially headed into game week. So the next time you hear from us, we will be inside of 96 hours from football. So you guys have a good weekend. Stay safe out there. Enjoy yourselves. Watch some football tomorrow. And as always, go Bucks.
Go Bucks.